The room goes silent as the front door clicks shut behind me. Sophia's hand is on Nathan's shoulder, her body angled toward him in a way that's both familiar and intimate. My husband's face drains of color as his eyes dart between us, the wife who wasn't supposed to be home for another day, and her identical twin who is wearing my clothes. My wedding ring, my life, Eliza, Nathan whispers, and I can't tell if he's addressing me or her. That's when I know I've made a catastrophic mistake. 3 weeks earlier, I would have laughed at the idea of hiring my own twin sister to test my husband's loyalty. 3 weeks earlier, I still trusted him. The first sign was the password change. 7 years of marriage, and Nathan had never locked me out of his phone. We had that kind of relationship, transparent, trusting, almost boringly stable. Until he wasn't. Must have been when I updated my software, he said, not quite meeting my eyes as he tapped in a new code. His thumb moved too quickly for me to catch the numbers. I told myself it didn't matter. Told myself I wasn't the kind of wife who monitored her husband's messages or tracked his location. But that night I lay awake beside him, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing while my mind spun elaborate theories out of nothing more than a changed password and the faint scent of unfamiliar perfume on his collar. The next morning over breakfast, I watched him scrolling through emails, his dark hair still damp from the shower, stubble shadowing his jaw. He looked up and caught me staring. "What?" he asked, lips curving into that crooked smile that had made me fall for him a decade ago. "Nothing," I replied, pushing egg around my plate. "Late meeting again tonight?" Nathan nodded, attention already back on his phone. "We're close to securing the investor. Marcus thinks we can close the deal by the end of the month." Marcus Wells, Nathan's business partner who had a reputation for mixing business with pleasure. The same Marcus who had whispered something in a woman's ear at last year's Christmas party that made her blush and giggle. The same Marcus whose divorce had finalized 3 months ago. "Give Marcus my best," I said, trying to keep my voice light. That evening, I called my sister, Eliza. Sophia's voice came through with the slight delay that accompanied our calls since she'd moved to Barcelona 4 years ago. "I was just thinking about you." Twin telepathy strikes again. I smiled despite myself. We might be identical in appearance, but Sophia and I had taken different paths since college. While I built a career in marketing and settled into marriage in Seattle, Sophia taught English abroad, drifted between relationships, and lived the kind of spontaneous life I sometimes envied from the comfort of my structured one. "How's sunny Spain?" I asked. Actually, she drew out the word in that way she did when she had news. "I'm coming home. Just for a few months. The school's renovating and I've got some time off." "You're coming here?" "To Seattle?" The surge of emotion that hit me was complicated. Joy at seeing my sister tangled with a strange sense of dread. "If you'll have me. I know your guest room has probably turned into Nathan's gaming den by now." "No, it's perfect timing," I said, the germ of an idea already forming. "When do you arrive?" 2 days later, I was hugging my mirror image in the airport terminal. Same chestnut hair, though hers was shorter now. Same hazel eyes, same spray of freckles across our noses. But Sophia's shoulders were tanned from the Spanish sun, her style more bohemian than my tailored work attire. "You look—" She held me at arm's length, examining me with the scrutiny only a twin could get away with. "Tired?" I attempted a smile. "Work's been demanding, and Nathan's startup is in a critical phase." Her eyes narrowed slightly. Sophia had always been able to sense when I wasn't telling the whole truth. It was one of the blessings and curses of having someone who shared your DNA. That night, after Nathan called to say he'd be working late again, Sophia and I opened a bottle of wine in the kitchen. The house, a craftsman we'd purchased 3 years ago in a neighborhood we could barely afford, felt different with my sister in it. Like the air had more oxygen. "Remember when we used to switch places in high school?" Sophia said, refilling our glasses. "Mrs. Pendleton never knew the difference," I laughed. "You almost got me expelled when you took my calculus test. And you got me a date with Jason Miller by pretending to be me at track practice." Her smile faded as she studied my face. "Seriously, what's going on? You're doing that thing with your eyebrow when you're worried." I hadn't realized I was furrowing my brow. With a conscious effort, I relaxed my face. It's probably nothing, but Nathan's been different, distant. Working late, password on his phone, secretive calls. I shrugged, embarrassed to be voicing my fears. Classic signs, right? Sophia didn't immediately dismiss my concerns, which somehow made it worse. Have you asked him? And sound like the paranoid, jealous wife? What would I even say? Hey, honey, are you sleeping with someone from work? She swirled the wine in her glass, thinking. You know, there's one sure way to find out. What? Hire a private investigator? I scoffed. You've got something better. She pointed at her own face, then mine. The perfect disguise. I stared at her for a moment before understanding dawned. No, absolutely not. We're not 17 anymore. Think about it. Sophia leaned forward. I'll be you for a day or two. See how he acts when he thinks I'm you. If he's faithful, you'll know. If he's not... She shrugged. That's insane, I said, but didn't immediately reject the idea, which should have been my first warning. And manipulative. And probably illegal in some way. More manipulative than him potentially cheating on you? I took a large sip of wine. I can't believe we're even discussing this, but we were. And by the bottom of the bottle, the idea had settled in my mind like a seed in fertile soil. This is a mistake, I said for the 5th time as Sophia adjusted my cardigan on her shoulders. We were the same height and weight, but somehow the clothes looked different on her, like she was playing dress-up in my life. It's one day. Liz, you've already set it up perfectly with your business trip to Portland. She was practicing my walk now, the slightly faster pace I maintained compared to her more relaxed stride. Besides, don't you want to know for sure? Either way, you get peace of mind. Peace of mind. Was that what I wanted? Or was I looking for confirmation of my fears? Proof that my marriage was exactly as fragile as I secretly believed it to be. My best friend Tara had encouraged the plan when I'd called her in a moment of doubt. You deserve to know the truth, she'd said. And if Nathan's innocent, no harm done. No harm done. As if deception could ever be harmless. I'd gone through with the preparations anyway. Told Nathan I had to visit a client in Portland overnight. Briefed Sophia on our daily routines, his likes and dislikes, the small details of our marriage that only I would know. He sleeps on the left side of the bed, I said, handing her my wedding ring. The pale indentation on my finger felt naked and wrong. I'm not sleeping in your bed, Sophia said firmly. This is reconnaissance, not sleeping with the enemy twin edition. I'll say I'm not feeling well and take the guest room. I nodded, grateful for that boundary at least. He likes to watch TV after dinner. Usually sports or those home renovation shows. Riveting, Sophia deadpanned. Anything else I should know? Any special bedroom habits? Sophia! I felt my cheeks flush. She laughed. Kidding, mostly. But seriously, what am I looking for exactly? Besides the obvious signs of cheating, I hesitated. What was I looking for? Just pay attention to his calls. If he gets secretive, if he mentions staying late at work again. And there's a woman named Vanessa at his office. He's mentioned her a few times recently. Sophia nodded, suddenly serious. I'll be your eyes and ears. And Liz? No matter what happens, we'll get through it. We always do. As I packed an overnight bag for a hotel downtown rather than Portland, I felt like I was preparing to jump off a cliff with no certainty of what waited below. The hotel room was sterile and anonymous, a fitting backdrop for my self-imposed exile. I'd brought work with me, but couldn't focus on the marketing campaign that had seemed so important just days ago. Instead, I obsessively checked my phone for updates from Sophia, who had promised to text throughout the evening. Her first message came at 6:15 p.m. He's home. Brought takeout. Said he missed me last night. Seems normal. I tried to picture it. Nathan entering our house, greeting the woman he thought was his wife. Would he notice the subtle differences? The way Sophia's laugh was slightly louder than mine? The fact that she held her fork in her right hand while I used my left? Watching some show about people buying houses on the beach. He keeps checking his phone. My stomach tightened. Ask who he's texting? I wrote back, 20 minutes passed before her response. Said it was Marcus about investor meeting tomorrow. Put phone down when I asked. Now he's giving me his full attention. Almost too attentive? I wasn't sure what to make of that. Nathan being attentive should be a good sign, shouldn't it? Unless it was overcompensation for guilt. Going to bed now. Told him I have a headache. He seemed concerned but didn't push it. I sent back a thumbs up, then stared at the ceiling of my hotel room. What was I doing? This wasn't who I wanted to be. A woman so insecure that she'd orchestrate an elaborate deception to test her husband. Yet here I was, alone in a hotel while my twin impersonated me in my own home. The next morning I woke to a text from Sophia. He left early for work. Said he'd be late tonight. Investor dinner. I felt a pang of vindication that immediately turned to ash in my mouth. Was I hoping to be right about my suspicions? Did he say where? I texted back. Cassoni's downtown at 7. Said he'd call later. Cassoni's was an upscale Italian place where Nathan and I had celebrated our anniversary 2 years ago. It seemed an odd choice for a business dinner. I spent the day alternating between half-hearted attempts at work and bouts of intense guilt. By late afternoon, I'd made a decision. This charade had gone far enough. I would call Nathan, tell him I was coming home early from Portland, and put an end to this madness before it went any further. But as I reached for my phone, another text from Sophia appeared, found something in his desk drawer. Not what we expected. Come home now. My heart thundered in my chest. What is it? I typed with shaking fingers. Just come. You need to see this yourself. I was in my car within minutes, the drive home passing in a blur of catastrophic scenarios. Had Sophia found evidence of an affair? Love letters? Hotel receipts? Or something worse, divorce papers perhaps? When I pulled into our driveway, my hands were damp on the steering wheel. Our house looked exactly as I'd left it. The late afternoon sun warming the blue paint, the cherry tree in the front yard dropping its first blossoms onto the lawn. How could everything look so normal when my world was possibly crumbling? Sophia opened the door before I could use my key. Her expression was unreadable. Where is he? I asked immediately, still at work. He won't be home until after the dinner. She led me to Nathan's home office, a small room off the living room that had once been a den. I was looking for a phone charger when I found this. She opened the bottom desk drawer and removed a manila folder. Inside were printouts of email correspondences, bank statements, and what looked like legal documents. I frowned, scanning the papers. What am I looking at? Nathan's been talking to a real estate agent, Sophia said quietly. And a small business loan officer. The documents swam before my eyes as I tried to make sense of them. There were photos of a small storefront, financial projections, and emails discussing terms. I don't understand, I said. Is he planning to leave me? Buy a separate property? Sophia shook her head. Look at the name of the business plan. I flipped to the cover page and felt my breath catch. Eliza's place? It's a bookstore cafe, Sophia said. From what I can piece together, he's been working on this for months. The investor meetings weren't just for his tech startup. He's been securing funding to help you open the bookstore you've talked about since college. I sank into Nathan's office chair, the papers trembling in my hands. The bookstore had been a dream I'd mentioned over the years, a someday fantasy I'd long ago filed away as impractical. Nathan had apparently been listening all along. There's more, Sophia said, more gently now. He's been meeting with that woman from his office, Vanessa. She's an interior designer. The perfume you smelled was probably from their meetings. About the space. The realization of what I'd done, the trust I'd violated based on nothing more than insecurity and suspicion hit me with physical force. Oh, God. There's one thing I don't understand, Sophia said, perching on the edge of the desk. The password on his phone changed because he was hiding this from me. You? I need to call him, I said, reaching for my phone. Tell him I'm coming home early. I need to explain before... The sound of a key in the front door made us both freeze. Eliza? Nathan's voice called out. Are you home? My dinner got canceled. Sophia and I exchanged a panicked look. There was no time for her to leave. No way to explain why there were suddenly two of us in the house. "In your office," Sophia called back. Slipping into my voice with practiced ease, I moved toward the hall closet, the only hiding place within reach, but it was too late. Nathan appeared in the doorway, his expression shifting from confusion to shock as he looked between us. For a moment, none of us spoke. I realized with painful clarity how this must look to him. His wife and her identical twin standing in his office, surrounded by his secret plans, the trust between us all shattered in an instant. "Nathan," I began. But what could I possibly say? How could I explain that I'd doubted him so deeply that I'd orchestrated this betrayal? His eyes moved from me to Sophia, then to the papers on the desk. Understanding dawned on his face, followed by something worse: hurt. "How long has this been going on?" he asked, his voice terrifyingly calm. "It's not what you think," Sophia started. "I asked my wife," he said. Eyes locked on me. The word wife hung in the air between us, suddenly fragile and questionable. "Just since yesterday," I admitted. "I thought. I was afraid that I was cheating on you," he finished for me. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my chest ache. "So you what? Decided to set me up, test me?" "I found the business plan by accident," Sophia interjected. "I was just about to call Eliza when—" "Stop." Nathan held up a hand. "Just stop. I don't even know which one of you I've been living with since yesterday. Do you understand how disturbing that is?" The room went silent as the front door clicked shut behind me. Sophia's hand is on Nathan's shoulder, her body angled toward him in a way that's both familiar and intimate. My husband's face drains of color as his eyes dart between us, the wife who wasn't supposed to be home for another day, and her identical twin who is wearing my clothes. "My wedding ring, my life." "Eliza," Nathan whispers, and I can't tell if he's addressing me or her. That's when I know I've made a catastrophic mistake. "It was me," Sophia said, stepping away from Nathan. "Eliza was at a hotel downtown. She thought you were having an affair." Nathan's laugh was hollow. "An affair? While I've been working double shifts to save enough for a down payment on your dream business?" I felt sick. "The password on your phone. The late nights. The perfume on your collar." "The password was because I had photos of the storefront saved," he said. "I was meeting with Vanessa after hours because she's Marcus's cousin and agreed to help design the space as a favor. And I told you about the investor meetings." "At Cassoni's," I said weakly. "Our anniversary restaurant. Because the investor is also the building owner, and he loves their osso buco." Nathan's expression was a mixture of disbelief and betrayal. 7 years together, and this is what you think of me?" Sophia quietly slipped the wedding ring off her finger and placed it on the desk. "I should go." "No," Nathan said, surprising us both. "Stay. Apparently I don't even know which of you I've been married to all this time." The words struck like a physical blow. "That's not fair," I protested. "Fair?" His voice rose slightly. "What's not fair is coming home to find out your wife has been having her twin sister spy on you. What's not fair is realizing the person who's supposed to trust you most in the world would rather set up an elaborate sting operation than just ask you a direct question." He wasn't wrong. The shame of it burned through me. "I'll stay at Marcus's tonight," Nathan said, already moving toward the bedroom. "I need to process this." Sophia and I stood in frozen silence as we listened to him pack an overnight bag. When he re-emerged, his face was composed but his eyes were red-rimmed. "I've never given you a reason not to trust me," he said quietly. "Not once in 10 years. I know," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." He looked at me for a long moment. "The thing is, I'm not even angry. I'm just disappointed. And sad." After he left, Sophia and I sat at the kitchen table, the house eerily quiet around us. "He'll come around," she offered. "Once he cools down." I traced the grain of the wooden table with my fingertip. "Would you? If someone you loved deceived you like this?" She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Later that night, after Sophia had gone to bed in the guest room, I sat alone in the living room, scrolling through photos on my phone. Nathan and I on our honeymoon in Maui, at his company launch party. Building a snowman last winter during the rare Seattle snowstorm. I clicked on a video from 2 years ago, Nathan's birthday. In it, he was opening the vintage record player I'd hunted down because he'd mentioned once that his grandfather had owned a similar model. The look on his face when he saw it, pure joy and love, made my eyes fill with tears. I'd been so focused on the signs that he was pulling away that I'd missed the evidence of his commitment all around me. The coffee he made every morning before leaving for work. The way he still reached for my hand during movies. The bookstore plans hidden in his desk drawer. I sent him a text, not expecting a response. I'm so sorry. I love you. Please come home when you're ready to talk. To my surprise, the reply came almost immediately. I love you too. That's why this hurts so much. I need some time. The next morning, Sophia found me at the kitchen table, still in yesterday's clothes, a cold cup of coffee in front of me. Have you slept? She asked, concern etched on her face that was so similar to mine. I shook my head. This is my fault, not yours. We're both responsible, she said, sitting across from me. I suggested it. I should have talked you out of it instead. Why didn't you? I asked, genuinely curious. She considered the question carefully. Honestly, I think I wanted to see if what you have is real. My relationships never last beyond the honeymoon phase. But you and Nathan, I envied that stability. And now I've wrecked it. You haven't wrecked anything, she insisted. You've hit a rough patch. There's a difference. I wasn't sure I believed her, but I appreciated the attempt at comfort. What are you going to do now? She asked. Give him the space he asked for. Then fight like hell to rebuild what I broke. I managed a weak smile, starting with getting you a hotel room. No offense. None taken. She smiled back. I've overstayed my welcome in spectacular fashion. We spent the day in a strange limbo. Sophia packed her things while I obsessively cleaned the house, as if removing every speck of dust might somehow cleanse the situation. Neither of us mentioned Nathan, but his absence filled every room. Around 6 that evening, my phone chimed with a text. Nathan. Coming home in an hour. We need to talk, my heart lurched. He's coming back, I told Sophia, who was ordering an Uber to a downtown hotel. That's good, she said. Do you want me gone before he gets here? I considered it, then shook my head. No, you're part of this conversation too. When Nathan's key turned in the lock an hour later, Sophia and I were sitting in the living room like suspects awaiting interrogation. He looked tired, his normally clean-shaven face showing stubble. Dark circles under his eyes matching my own. Hi, I said, my voice small. He nodded in acknowledgement, set down his bag, and took the armchair opposite us. For a moment, no one spoke. I talked to my brother last night, Nathan finally said. He had some interesting perspective. I waited, heart hammering. He said I should ask myself why you felt you couldn't just talk to me. That maybe this isn't entirely on you. Nathan rubbed his jaw. I've been distant, secretive about the bookstore plans. I can see how that might have fed into your insecurities. That doesn't excuse what I did, I said. No, it doesn't, he agreed. But relationships aren't about keeping score of wrongs. At least ours never has been. Hope flickered in my chest. What happens now? He looked between Sophia and me. First, I'd like to never again come home to find 2 of my wife. Sophia nodded. I'll be checked into the Hotel Endra within the hour. And then? I asked Nathan. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Then we talk. Really talk. About why you didn't feel you could ask me directly about your concerns. About why I thought surprising you was more important than including you in plans for your own business. I'd like that, I said softly. I'm not saying everything's fixed, he cautioned. Trust is earned. We both have work to do. I know. Sophia stood, clearly sensing the conversation was shifting to something more private. I'll get my things. As she moved toward the guest room, Nathan called after her. Sophia? She turned. Thank you for telling Eliza the truth about what you found. I think some people might have been tempted to keep that information to themselves. Something unreadable flickered across my sister's face. We might look the same, but we're not the same person. I would never want what isn't mine to take. After she left, Nathan and I sat in our living room, the space between us on the couch both literal and metaphorical. "The bookstore," I said. "It's the most thoughtful thing anyone's ever tried to do for me." "I wanted it to be perfect before I showed you," he admitted. I got so caught up in the surprise that I didn't see what my behavior was doing to us. "I should have trusted you." He nodded slowly. "Yes, you should have. But I should have given you less reason to doubt." I hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning in me. "How did you know?" "That it was Sophia yesterday, not me." A small smile touched his lips. "Little things. She drinks coffee with her right hand, you use your left. She didn't know which cabinet the wine glasses are in. She laughed at different moments during that terrible reality show than you would have. You noticed all that?" "Of course I did." His eyes met mine. "I know you, Eliza. Every habit, every expression. Just like you'd know in an instant if someone tried to replace me." The truth of it washed over me. I would know. No matter how perfect the imitation, I would sense the difference between the man I loved and anyone else. "I'm so sorry," I said again, knowing the words were inadequate, but needing to say them anyway. Nathan reached across the couch and took my hand. His touch was familiar and steadying. "We'll figure this out. Not tonight, not all at once. But we will." I squeezed his hand, holding on like it was a lifeline. In many ways, it was. 3 months later, I stood in the empty storefront that would soon become Eliza's place. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating the exposed brick walls and hardwood floors that would eventually hold bookshelves and cafe tables. Nathan stood beside me, his arm around my waist. "What do you think?" Vanessa suggested moving the coffee counter to the back wall instead of the side. "I love it," I said, leaning into him. "All of it." The past months had been challenging, rebuilding what had been broken between us. Weekly sessions with a marriage counselor, long conversations that sometimes turned into arguments and back into reconciliations. Moments of doubt followed by renewed commitment. Trust, we were learning, wasn't a state but a practice, something to be reaffirmed every day through small choices and consistent honesty. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia, who had returned to Barcelona after a 2-week stay at her hotel. "How's the bookstore coming? Send pictures." I snapped a photo of the empty space and sent it to her. Our relationship had shifted too, the experience creating both a new distance and a strange intimacy between us. We spoke more often now, but with more careful boundaries. "Sophia says hi," I told Nathan, who nodded. "You should invite her for the grand opening," he said, surprising me. "Really? You'd be okay with that?" He considered for a moment. "I think so. What happened was wrong, but in a strange way, it forced us to confront issues we might have ignored until they did real damage." I turned to face him, wrapping my arms around his neck. "When did you get so wise?" "Around the same time you opened a bookstore." He smiled, then grew serious. "We're okay, you know. Not perfect, but okay, and we were. The betrayal had left its mark. A hairline fracture in the foundation of our marriage that had been carefully repaired. Not invisible, but perhaps stronger for having been tended to." I thought about the twin sister who had briefly stepped into my life, showing me both what I feared to lose and what I had taken for granted. I thought about the husband who had kept secrets for the right reasons and forgiven me for the wrong ones. And I thought about myself, the insecurities I was learning to voice instead of act upon, the trust I was learning to give not blindly but deliberately. "I love you," I told Nathan, the words simple but heavy with everything we'd been through. "I love you too," he replied. "Both versions of you." I laughed and swatted his arm. "That's not funny yet." "Give it time," he said, pulling me closer. "Everything gets easier with time." Outside the large storefront windows, Seattle continued its afternoon bustle, people hurrying past, unaware of the small drama of forgiveness and rebuilding taking place inside. In 6 months, they might stop in for coffee and books, never knowing how close the couple behind the counter had come to losing each other. Some tests we pass, some we fail. But it's what we learn in the aftermath that defines us. I leaned my head against Nathan's shoulder and imagined the space filled with books and readers, the aroma of coffee in the air. A new chapter beginning, not despite what we'd been through, but because of it. My phone buzzed again with Sophia's response to the photo. Beautiful empty canvas. Can't wait to see what you create there. What we create here, I thought, looking around the empty room that held so much promise. What we continue to create together.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.